Our story, Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny, opens with Lord Yama, the fallen death god, operating a powerful prayer machine aiming its high-frequency prayers at the upper atmosphere, specifically Nirvana. Yama succeeds in pulling back the consciousness of the great-souled Sam, formerly known as the Buddha. The goal of Sam's return, as strategized by Lord Yama and Ratri, the fallen goddess of night, is to utilize his unique abilities and past experiences to spearhead their challenge to the oppressive rule of the other gods of the celestial city. However, Sam struggles to reconcile his past as a warrior and leader with his desire for the peace of Nirvana. He is reluctant to be thrust back into conflict. So it's apparent to Yama, Ratri, and the third conspirator, Tak, the importance of re-humanizing Sam to help him reconnect with his humanity and embrace the physical world. They begin that process, but realize they will need to move their location very soon to avoid detection by the gods. Join us for episode 2 to see Sam's progress on reaccumulating his power.
In the weeks that followed, Sam came to look forward to these walks with what appeared at first a mild anticipation, then a moderate enthusiasm, and finally a blazing eagerness. He took to going off unaccompanied for longer and longer stretches of time. At first it was for several hours in the morning. Then morning and evening. Later he stayed away all day, and on occasion a day and a night. At the end of the third week, Yama and Ratri discussed it on the porch in the early hours of the morning.
This thing I do not like. We cannot insult him by forcing our company upon him now, when he does not wish it. But there is danger out there, especially for one born again such as he. I would that we knew how he spends his hours.
Well, but whatever he does, it is helping him to recover.
Ratri gulped a sweetmeat and waved a fleshy hand.
He is less withdrawn. He speaks more, even jesting. He drinks of the wine we bring him. His appetite is returning.
Yet, if he should meet with an agent of Trimurti, the final doom may come to pass.
Ratri chewed slowly.
Well, it's not likely, though, that such should be abroad in this country in these days. The animals will see him as a child and will not harm him. Men would consider him a holy hermit. The demons fear him of old and so respect him.
But Yama shook his head.
Lady, it is not so simple. Though I have dismantled much of my machinery and hidden it hundreds of leagues from here, such a massive trafficking of energies as I employed cannot have passed unnoticed. Sooner or later this place will be visited. I use screens and baffling devices, but this general area must have appeared in certain quarters as though the universal fire did a dance upon the map. Soon we must move on. I should prefer to wait until our charge is fully recovered, but...
Could not certain natural forces have produced the same energy effects as your workings?
Yes, and they do occur in this vicinity, which is why I chose it as our base. So it may well be that nothing will come of it. Still, I doubt this. My spies in the villages report no unusual activities now, but on the day of his return, riding upon the crest of the storm, some say the thunder chariot passed, hunting through the heavens and across the countryside. This was far from here, but I cannot believe that there was no connection.
Yet it has not returned.
Not that we know of, but I fear...
Then let us depart at once. I respect your forebodings too well. You have more of the power upon you than any other among the fallen. For me, it is a great strain even to assume a pleasing shape for more than a few minutes.
Yama refilled her teacup.
What powers I possess are intact because they were not of the same order as yours.
He smiled then, showing even rows of long, brilliant teeth. This smile caught at the edge of a scar upon his left cheek and reached up to the corner of his eye. He winked to put a period to it and continued.
Much of my power is in the form of knowledge, which even the lords of karma could not have wrested from me. The power of most of the gods, however, is predicated upon a spatial physiology, which they lose in part when incarnated into a new body. The mind, somehow remembering after a time, alters any body to a certain extent, engendering a new homeostasis, permitting a gradual return of power. Mine does return quickly, though, and it is with me fully now. But even if it were not, I have my knowledge to use as a weapon, and that is a power.
Ratri sipped her tea.
Whatever its source, if your power says move, then move we must. How soon?
Yama opened a pouch of tobacco and rolled a cigarette as he spoke. His dark, supple fingers, she noted, always had about them movement, that which was like the movements of one who played upon an instrument of music.
I should say, let us not tarry here more than another week or 10 days. We must wean him from this countryside by then.
She nodded.
Where to, then?
Some small southern kingdom, perhaps, where we may come and go undisturbed.
He lit the cigarette, breathed smoke.
I have a better idea. Know that under a mortal name am I mistress of the palace of Kama in Kapur.
The fornicatorium, madam?
She frowned.
As such is it called, often known to the vulgar. And do not call me madam in the same breath. It smacks of an ancient jest. It is a place of rest, pleasure, holiness, and much of my revenue. There, I feel, would be a good hiding place for our charge, while he makes his recovery and we our plans.
Yama slapped his thigh.
Aye. Who would think to look for the Buddha in a whorehouse? Good, excellent. Tukaipor, then, dear goddess, Tukaipor and the palace of love.
She stood and stamped her sandal upon the flagstones.
I will not have you speak that way of my establishment.
He dropped his eyes, and with pain dropped a grin from his face. He stood then and bowed.
I apologize, dear Ratri, but the revelation came so sudden.
He choked then and looked away. When he looked back, he was full of sobriety and decorum.
That I was taken aback by the apparent incongruity. Now, though, I do see the wisdom of the thing. It is a most perfect cover-up, and it provides you both with wealth and, what is more important, with a source of privy information among the merchants, warriors, and priests. It is an indispensable part of the community. It gives you status and a voice in civil affairs. Being a god is one of the oldest professions in the world. It is only fitting, therefore, that we fallen ones take umbrage within the pale of another venerable tradition. I salute you. I give thanks for your wisdom and forethought. I do not slander the enterprises of a benefactor and a co-conspirator. In fact, I look forward to the visit.
She smiled and seated herself once more.
I accept your well-oiled apology, O son of the serpent. In any event, it is too difficult to remain angry with you. Pour me some more tea, please.
They reclined, Ratri sipping her tea, Yama smoking. In the distance, a storm front drew a curtain across half the prospect. The sun still shone upon them, however, and a cool breeze visited the porch.
You have seen the ring of iron which he wears?
Ratri ate another sweetmeat.
Yes,
Know you where he obtained it?
I do not.
Nor I, but I feel we should learn its origin. Well, how shall we assay this thing?
I have assigned the chore to Tak, who is better suited to the ways of the forest than we. Even now he follows the trail.
Ratri nodded.
Good.
I have heard that the gods do still occasionally visit the more notable palaces of Kama throughout the land, generally in disguise, but sometimes in full power. Is this true?
Yes, but a year ago, did Lord Indra come to Kaipur? Some 3 years back, the false Krishna made a visit. Of all the celestial party, Krishna, the tireless, does cause the greatest consternation among the staff. He stayed for a month of riot, which involved much broken furniture and the services of many physicians. He did near empty the wine cellar and the larder. He played then upon his pipes one night, however, the hearing of which would have been good enough to gain the old Krishna forgiveness for near anything. But it was not the true magic we heard that night. For there is only one true Krishna, swart and hairy, his eyes so red and blazing. This one did dance upon the tables, causing much havoc, and his musical accompaniment was insufficient.
Paid he for this carnage with other than a song?
Oh, come now, Yama. There be no rhetorical question between us.
He snorted smoke.
Surya, the sun, is now about to be encompassed.
Ratri stared about and outward.
And Indra slays the dragon. At any moment, the rains will arrive.
A wave of grayness covered over the monastery. The breeze grew stronger, and the dance of the waters began upon the walls. Like a beaded curtain, the rain covered that open end of the porch at which they stared. Yama poured more tea. Ratri ate another sweetmeat. Tak made his way through the forest. He moved from tree to tree, branch to branch, watching the trail below him. His fur was moist, for the leaves shook small showers down upon him as he passed. Clouds mounted at his back, but the sun of early morning still shone in the eastern sky, and the forest was a swarm of colors in its red-gold light. About him, birds were singing from within the tangle of branches, vines, leaves, and grasses that stood like a wall upon either side of the trail. The birds made their music, insects hummed, and occasionally there was a growl or bark. The foliage was stirred by the wind. Below him, the trail bent sharply, entering a clearing. Tak dropped to the ground, proceeded on foot. At the other side of the clearing, he took to the trees again. Now, he noticed, the trail was running parallel to the mountains, even inclining slightly back in their direction. There was a distant rattle of thunder, and after a time, a new breeze came up, cool. He swung on, breaking through moist spider webs, frightening birds into shrieking flurries of bright plumage. The trail continued to move in the direction of the mountains, slowly doubling back upon itself. At times, it met with other hard-packed yellow trails, dividing, crossing, parting. On these occasions, he descended to the ground and studied the surface markings. Yes, Sam had turned here. Sam had stopped beside this pool to drink here, where the orange mushrooms grew taller than a tall man and wide enough to shelter several from the rains. Now Sam had taken that branch of the roadway. Here he had stopped to fix a sandal strap. At this point, he had leaned upon a tree, which showed indications of housing a dryad. Tak moved on, about half an hour behind his quarry as he judged it, so giving him plenty of time to get to wherever he was going and to begin whatever activity so engaged his enthusiasms. A halo of heat lightning reached above the mountains he was now facing. There was another rumble of thunder. The trail headed on up into the foothills where the forest thinned, and Tak moved on all fours amid tall grasses. It headed steadily upward, and rocky outcroppings became more and more prominent. Still, Sam had passed this way, so Tak followed. Overhead, the pollen-colored bridge of the gods vanished as the clouds rolled steadily eastward. Lightning flashed, and now the thunder followed quickly. The wind came faster here in the open. The grasses bent down before it. The temperature seemed suddenly to plummet. Tak felt the first drops of rain and dashed for the shelter of one of the stands of stone. It ran like a narrow hedge, slightly slanted against the rain. Tak moved along its base as the waters were unleashed, and color deserted the world along with the last bit of blue in the sky. A sea of turbulent light appeared overhead, and 3 times spilled streams that rode, crazy crescendo, down to splash upon the stone fang, curving blackly into the wind, about a quarter-mile up the slope. When Tak's vision cleared, he saw that which he did now understand. It was as though each bolt that had fallen had left a part of itself, standing, swaying in the gray air, pulsing fires, despite the wetness that came steadily down upon the ground. Then Tak heard the laughter. Or was it a ghost sound left in his ears by the recent thunder? No, it was laughter. Gigantic. Unhuman. After a time, there came a howl of rage. Then there was another flash, another rumble. Another funnel of fire swayed beside the stone fang. Tak lay still for about 5 minutes. Then it came again, the howl followed by 3 bright flashes in the crash. Now there were 7 pillars of fire. Dared he approach, skirting these things, spying upon the Fang Peak from its opposite side? And if he did, and if, as he felt, Sam was somehow involved, what good could he do if the Enlightened One himself could not handle the situation? He had no answer. But he found himself moving forward, crouched low in the damp grass, swinging far to his left. When he was halfway there, it happened again, and 10 of the things towered, red and gold and yellow, drifting and returning, as though their bases were rooted to the ground. He crouched there, wet and shivering, examined his courage and found it to be a small thing indeed. Yet he pushed on until he was parallel to the strange place, then past it. He drew up behind it, finding himself in the midst of many large stones, grateful for their shelter and the cover they provided against observation from below. He inched forward, never taking his eyes from the Fang. He could see now that it was partly hollow. There was a dry, shallow cave at its base, and 2 figures knelt within it. Holy men at prayer, he wondered? Then it happened. The most frightful flashing he had ever seen came down upon the stones, not once, or for a mere instant. It was as if a fire-tongued beast licked and licked about the stone, growling as it did so for perhaps a quarter of a minute. When Tak opened his eyes, he counted 20 of the blazing towers. One of the holy men leaned forward, gestured. The other laughed. The sound carried to where Tak lay, and the words,
"Eyes of the serpent, mine now."
"What is the quantity?"
asked the second, and Tak knew it to be the voice of great-souled Sam.
"Twice or none at all,"
roared the other, and he leaned forward, rocked back, then gestured as Sam had done.
"Nina from Srinagina,"
he chanted, and leaned, rocked, and gestured once more.
"Sacred 7,
Sam said softly.
"Ow!"
The other howled. Tak closed his eyes and covered his ears, expecting what might come after that howl. Nor was he mistaken. When the blaze and the tumult had passed, he looked down upon an eerily illuminated scene. He did not bother counting. It was apparent that 40 of the flame-like things now hung about the place, casting their weird glow. Their number had doubled. The ritual continued. On the left hand of the Buddha, the iron ring glowed with a pale greenish light, all its own. He heard the words,
"Twice or none at all,"
repeated again, and he heard the Buddha say,
Sacred 7.
once more in reply. This time, he thought the mountainside would come apart beneath him. This time, he thought the brightness was an afterimage, tattooed upon his retina through closed eyelids. But he was wrong. When he opened his eyes, it was to look upon a veritable army of shifting thunderbolts. Their blaze jabbed into his brain, and he shaded his eyes to stare down below.
"Well, Raltariki?"
asked Sam, and a bright emerald light played about his left hand.
"One time again, Siddhartha, twice or not at all."
The rains let up for a moment, and in the great blaze from the host on the hillside, Tak saw that the one called Raltariki had the head of a water buffalo and an extra pair of arms. He shivered. He covered his eyes and ears and clenched his teeth, waiting. After a time, it happened. It roared and blazed, going on and on, until finally he lost consciousness. When he recovered his senses, there was only a grayness and a gentle rain between himself and the sheltering rock. At its base, only one figure sat, and it did not wear horns or appear to possess more arms than the customary two. Tak did not move. He waited. Yama handed him an aerosol.
This is demon repellent. In the future, I suggest you anoint yourself thoroughly if you intend venturing very far from the monastery. I had thought the region free of the Rakasha, or I would have given it to you sooner.
Tak accepted the container, placed it on the table before him. They sat in Yama's chambers, having taken a light meal there. Yama leaned back in his chair, a glass of the Buddha's wine in his left hand, a half-filled decanter in his right.
Then the one called Ratri is really a demon?
Yes and no. If by demon you mean a malefic supernatural creature possessed of great powers, lifespan, and the ability to temporarily assume virtually any shape, then the answer is no. This is the generally accepted definition, but it is untrue in one respect.
Oh, and what may that be?
It is not a supernatural creature.
But it is all those other things?
Yes.
Then I fail to see what difference it makes, whether it be supernatural or not, so long as it is malefic, possesses great powers and lifespan, and has the ability to change its shape at will.
Ah, but it makes a great deal of difference, you see. It is the difference between the unknown and the unknowable, between science and fantasy. It is a matter of essence. The 4 points of the compass be logic, knowledge, wisdom, and the unknown. Some do bow in that final direction. Others advance upon it. To bow before the one is to lose sight of the three. I may submit to the unknown, but never to the unknowable. The man who bows in that final direction is either a saint or a fool. I have no use for either.
Tak shrugged and sipped his wine.
But of the demons?
Knowable. I did experiment with them for many years, and I was one of the 4 who descended into Hellwell, if you recall, after Taraka fled Lord Agni at Palomesu. Are you not Tak of the archives?
I was.
Did you read then of the earliest recorded contacts with the Rakasha?
I read the accounts of the days of their binding.
Then you know that they are the native inhabitants of this world, that they were present here before the arrival of man from vanished Urath.
Yes.
They're creatures of energy rather than matter. Their own traditions have it that once they wore bodies and lived in cities. Their quest for personal immortality, however, led them along a different path from that which man followed. They found a way to perpetuate themselves as stable fields of energy. They abandoned their bodies to live forever as vortices of force. But pure intellect they are not. They carried with them their complete egos, and born of matter, they do ever lust after the flesh, though they can assume its appearance for a time, they cannot return to it unassisted. For ages they did drift aimlessly about this world. Then the arrival of man stirred them from their quiescence. They took on the shapes of the nightmares to devil him. This is why they had to be defeated and bound far beneath the strategized. We could not destroy them all. We could not permit them to continue their attempts to possess the machines of incarnation and the bodies of men. So they were trapped and contained in great magnetic bottles.
Yet Sam freed many to do his will.
Aye, he made and kept a nightmare pact, so that some of them do still walk the world. Of all men, they respect perhaps only Siddhartha, and with all men do they share one great vice.
That being?
They do dearly love to gamble. They will make game for any stakes, and gambling debts are their only point of honor. This must be so, or they would not hold the confidence of other gamesters, and would so lose that which is perhaps their only pleasure. Their powers being great, even princes will make game with them, hoping to win their services. Kingdoms have been lost in this fashion.
If, as you feel, Sam was playing one of the ancient games with Ratri, what could the stakes have been?
Yama finished his wine, refilled the glass.
Sam is a fool. No, he is not. He is a gambler. There's a difference. The Rakasha do control lesser orders of energy beings. Sam, through that ring he wears, does now command a guard of fire elementals, which he won from Ratri. These are deadly, mindless creatures, and each bears the force of a thunderbolt.
Tak finished his wine.
But what stakes could Sam have brought to the game?
All my work, all our efforts for over a half a century.
You mean his body?
Yama nodded.
A human body is the highest inducement any demon might be offered.
Why should Sam risk such a venture?
Yama stared at Tak, not seeing him.
It must have been the only way he could call upon his life will to bind him again to his task, by placing himself in jeopardy, by casting his very existence with each roll of the dice.
Tak poured himself another glass of wine and gulped it.
That is unknowable to me.
But Yama shook his head.
Unknown only. Sam is not quite a saint, nor is he a fool. Almost, though.
Yama decided. And that night, he squirted demon repellent about the monastery. The following morning, a small man approached the monastery and seated himself before its front entrance, placing a begging bowl on the ground at his feet. He wore a single threadbare garment of coarse brown cloth, which reached to his ankles. A black patch covered his left eye. What remained of his hair was dark and very long. His sharp nose, small chin, and high, flat ears gave to his face a fox-like appearance. His skin was tight-drawn and well-weathered. His single green eye seemed never to blink. He sat there for perhaps 20 minutes before one of Sam's monks noticed him and mentioned the fact to one of Ratri's dark-robed order. This monk located a priest and passed the information to him. The priest, anxious to impress the goddess with the virtues of her followers, sent for the beggar to be brought in and fed, offered new garments, and given a cell in which to sleep for as long as he chose to remain. The beggar accepted the food with the courtesies of a Brahmin, but declined to eat anything other than bread and fruit. He accepted, too, the dark garment of Ratri's order, casting aside his begrimed smock. Then he looked upon the cell and the fresh sleeping mat that had been laid for him.
I do thank you, worthy priest.
His voice was rich and resonant, and altogether larger than his person.
I do thank you and pray your goddess smile upon you for your kindness and generosity in her name.
The priest smiled at this himself and still hoped that Ratri might pass along the hall at this moment, to witness his kindness and generosity in her name. She did not, however. Few of her order had actually seen her, even on the night when she put on her power and walked among them, for only those of the saffron robe had attended Sam's awakening and were certain as to his identity. She generally moved about the monastery while her followers were at prayer or after they had retired for the evening. She slept mainly during the day, and when she did cross their sight, she was well muffled and cloaked. Her wishes and orders she communicated directly to Gandhiji, the head of the order, who is 93 years old this cycle, and more than half blind. Consequently, both her monks and those of the saffron robe wondered as to her appearance and sought to gain possible favor in her eyes. It was said that her blessing would ensure one's being incarnated as a Brahmin. Only Gandhiji did not care, for he had accepted the way of the real death. Since she did not pass along the hall as they stood there, the priest prolonged the conversation.
Balarma, may I inquire as to your name, good sir, and perhaps your destination?
I am Aram, who has taken upon himself a 10-year vow of poverty and of silence for 7. Fortunately, the 7 have elapsed, that I may now speak to thank my benefactors and answer their questions. I am heading up into the mountains to find me a cave where I may meditate and pray. I may, perhaps, accept your kindly hospitality for a few days before proceeding on with my journey.
We should be honored if a Holy One were to see fit to bless our monastery with his presence. We will make you welcome. If there is anything you wish to assist you along your path, and we may be able to grant this thing, please name it to us.
Aram fixed him with his unblinking green eye.
The monk who first observed me did not wear the robe of your order.
He touched the dark garment as he said it.
Instead, I believe my poor eye did behold one of another color.
Yes, for the followers of the Buddha do shelter here among us, resting a while from their wanderings.
That is truly interesting, for I should like to speak with them and perhaps learn more of their way.
You should have ample opportunity if you choose to remain among us for a time.
This then shall I do. For how long will they remain?
I do not know.
Aram nodded.
When might I speak with them?
This evening there will be an hour when all the monks are gathered together and free to speak as they would, save for those who have taken vows of silence.
I shall pass the interval till then in prayer. Thank you.
Each bowed slightly, and Aram entered his room. End of episode 2.